For some, love is a strong feeling. What if you could send it in a... From point A to point B. Zero borders, zero time, zero fees. For us, love is sending crypto. Just send it. Now with SmartSend. Engineered in Switzerland by SwissBorg.
Pow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay, pow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.
Pow wow, yo, yippee, yay, guys. Pow number 29, and I'm super excited to be with you guys. As always, we're going to dive into the love of the community, then talk about what's happening on the markets with our wonderful Paola and our fantastic Pietro, talk about what's happening as well within SwissBorg ecosystem, and have a super awesome guest. It's a brother from the same mother. Alex. Yes, you heard it right. That we're talking about what is the difference between CeFi and DeFi and what's the most beautiful of the bridge between these two, which is SwissBorg. As you guys know, my name is Cyrus Fizel. I'm the proud founder and CEO of SwissBorg, always here to serve you.
Hello from me with the news of the week. We kick it off with an announcement from Charles Schwab. They're launching their first crypto fund this week, more particularly on August 4. The fund will be following their Crypto Thematics Index, which is consisting of companies that are enabling the use of digital assets or companies that are building blockchain applications. You would probably notice that the fund is investing in companies rather than cryptos, and the reason for that is that still no fund got an approval from SEC to hold directly cryptos, not even BTC. So if you think that this is a great idea, but however you want to have it in crypto directly, I have good news for you. Now you can go on our website /thematics and explore our crypto bundles. You can even vote on the specifics of them, like which assets do you want to be in the bundles, what will be the minimum ticket size, etc. And a few updates on the Terra network. The investigations of fraud causing the collapse of UST are now closed, and as a result, both of the co-founders will be facing legal actions. One of the co-founders, Daniel Shin, is restricted from going out of South Korea, while the other, Duk Won, is expected to arrive from Singapore and later on put under arrest after a red notice was issued for him to Interpol. However, there are attempts to revive the Terra network. Entropy Beacon recently had been deployed to the chain, and it is a decentralized and secured protocol to be used as infrastructure for building DAOs on top of it. So maybe the removal of the centralization element from the network might help to regain the user's trust. And big news from AAVE. The DeFi lending protocol announced a crypto collateralized stablecoin. So now the users will be able to mint GHO, which is the name of the stablecoin, against their collaterals while still earning interest on their underlying. However, the model of the coin is put a bit under question. Unlike its algorithmic stablecoin cousins, it's actually burning all the tokens after the borrowed amount is repaid. However, it is still backed by crypto, not a single one, but a basket of cryptos, which diversifies the risk a bit, but still it is not 100% risk-free. And we wrap it up today with another cross-chain bridge attack, unfortunately. More than $200 million were stolen from the Nomad bridge, and this is claimed to be most of its funds. This is the last of series of attacks on bridges, really putting their security under question. Earlier this year, a huge attack on the Ronin bridge happened, and resulting in more than $600 million of loss, while there was another attack on the Wormhole bridge resulting in $300 million loss. And I can say here from our ventures point of view that we're always extra cautious when we're faced with such cross-chain bridge deals, because even the most in-depth tech research sometimes cannot prevent this from happening. And Nomad Bridge is a really good example because they just received recent funding in April from Coinbase Ventures and OpenSea, so it's assumed that they underwent pretty in-depth DD. So that's all from me this week. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's market update. So the first slide is titled, "Is the Worst Over?" And this is because current markets have been plagued with negative news. But as we saw last week, they actually reacted quite positively, both the stock market and the crypto market, to some of the news that came out. There was a 75 basis point rate hike by the Fed in terms of interest rates to combat inflation, since inflation has been sky high. And this was nothing concerning in the sense that this was already priced in. This rate hike was expected, and therefore markets actually reacted positively. Overall, then, earnings report from big tech and the S&P 500 that also happened last week, so some of the biggest companies in the world, were rather positive all around. This led to green markets, green all over the market, as you can see, and also crypto market being relatively green across the board. Nonetheless, I don't think the worst is done yet because there are two very big macro factors. One is the US already in a recession with 2 negative quarters of GDP growth. It could be seen as already being in the phase of the start of a recession. And the second is the worrying state of Europe, with Russia cutting its gas again to Germany, with the flow being reduced to 20%, the cost of gas in Europe being sky high, being pretty much at record highs in the short-term history. So therefore, the worst might not be over, and this recovery might be tentative, seeking for some kind of stabilization, but the macro picture affects the rest, and that's very important to note. The second important thing to note is the psychology of markets. So the fact why this recovery could be tentative is because it could be a bull trap. As the chart there shows, the bull trap is in bear market conditions when you buy an asset because its price started increasing again and you expect it to continue increasing, and actually it just falls sharply after that small upward trend. Psychologically, this is because we believe the worst is over, that we can time the market and find the perfect bottom. But many times in bear market conditions, these small upward movements don't last very long. This doesn't mean don't be in the market. This doesn't mean that we are definitely seeing a bull trap, but it means that strategies like dollar cost averaging are still favorable when you don't know whether we're in a bull trap or if we're simply stabilizing and actually found a bottom. As the chart on the right shows, the psychology of markets is one of the main factors in market cycles. How it usually goes is smart money through research, finding an interesting asset and invest in it initially. Institutions follow because they follow along with smart money to take advantage of massive potential. The public then invests because they follow institutions and they follow this relative hype, which leads to mass interest and mass movement in prices, mass movement upwards in this case. And that presents a risky scenarios when people start to make a lot of money very quickly. When the asset price starts to decline and panic sells in, and through fear, the price progressively drops before finding a stabilization period. In this drop, bull traps are extremely common. In the short kind of recoveries, it's common to find a bull trap when the price of an asset keeps decreasing. Therefore, if you want to invest, do it strategically, as we always advise you. Be aware of the psychology of markets and make sure to always look at the larger context. Finally, in terms of a DeFi spotlight, our DeFi updates have mainly been geared around a general overview, with Ethereum obviously still being the king ahead of the merge in terms of total value locked, and also focus on Tron that gained the second spot, beating the Binance Smart Chain, and this rise being due to the rise of the USDD stablecoin and the Justin Sun ecosystem overall. This week, though, the noteworthy mention is Optimism. Optimism has had quite an astronomical growth in terms of the DeFi space. It is an L2 on the Ethereum blockchain with higher transaction speeds, and they managed to cut costs through their optimistic rollups, which is the technology that's powering Optimism. And although the rise of Optimism has been clear and is now sitting at 11th in TVL in terms of blockchain, this has been due to two main platforms. The first is Synthetics, which has also gained a lot of attractiveness recently after they renewed a deal with Jump Crypto. Their DAO renewed a deal with Jump Crypto, and Optimism is the only other blockchain to be able to offer Synthetics. in the DeFi space on their blockchain. The other interesting one is Velodrome. Velodrome is a decentralized exchange deployed on Optimism. The rise in TVL has been incredible, as the table there would show. It could easily become the largest on Optimism, and it's also exclusively on Optimism. And Velodrome's trading pairs has actually held 4 of the top 10 slots in terms of 24-hour volume recently on Optimism, fighting with the likes of Uniswap. Therefore, based on this data, it's definitely a very interesting novel blockchain to look at, both in the DeFi space and overall, with the price of their token also gaining as of late. So very interesting to keep an eye out on for Optimism and any other blockchains that start to become more relevant in the DeFi space. That was it for me. Thank you very much for listening.
Question of the week from a community, Shane Fitz. Long story short, why we're not doing sponsoring? First thing is a lot of people that devote to sponsorship is for branding purposes and finding their identity. I think so we have found very well our identity and our mission at SwissBorg. When you're a bank and you don't have a mission, when you are a petroleum company, you don't have a mission. When you're, an aviation company and you don't have a mission, then you need to buy essentially coolness. Some like Karma with sports and things like that, saying, look, we have good taste, we're backing these sports, right? Or these people. With us, we don't need that. What we need is to back our community and our mission to get there. I think so this is the most important. Number 2, the fact is that, is it good for marketing reach? It is. But the best thing about marketing is actually you guys. We've shown that in a study that 55% of all the people on SwissBorg actually came because of referrals. Referrals from yourself, from influencers, and from people from the space. And this is really the best growth marketing that we've been able to do. Like a lot of different companies are buying these different clubs and this and that, but that necessarily means the best thing, right? When you're paying out these $1 million, it's money that's going out of the market, right? It's not where we're rewarding you guys. I'd rather reward you guys in a better way of like, let's organize our own tournaments, put our own t-shirts here. And this is a great way to essentially grow. However, we know that sometimes you need to do some marketing campaigns. I think the tram of Zurich is a good example, the airport in Geneva, and we're doing other things in France. But I think so it's very important to really invest in us and education as well. That's the other point. And I think so we're going to have a really great amount of videos that can be produced in the short run. And this will be a lot of how to edutain and educate people into the blockchain sphere. So sponsorships may be good for some companies. I'm not really convinced from it. And it's super expensive. Community sentiment of the week, obviously just want to highlight some awesome people like Paul and CeFi that's showing that the smart cent is really the coolest thing. Christoph that came to their office last week, which was really, really cool. And just people being community member like always with your premiums, showing the lights to people. I think so. Again, this is the best tool that we have, the commitment to show how trust there is within community and offer the best really experience through SwissBorg Network. Talking about awesome people, I want to highlight Antoine Lenné. Félicitations pour ton mariage. J'espère que ça s'est vraiment, vraiment bien passé. Antoine has been really doing a lot of things with the DEO on Discord, on Twitter. He is a guardian. He's a super cool person. And now he's super happily married. So congratulations to the both of you. I wish you both of Borgers a lovely, lovely lifetime of plenty of great surprises and que du bonheur. A lot of people are talking about the end of CeFi, and a lot of people are talking about the DeFi space. It's only for a few players. But what's the future of blockchain if there's no CeFi and that DeFi is not working well? Where's the safest place to actually store your asset and start yielding? Well, the best thing is that we're inviting the brother from the same mother, Alex, to the show, and let's get ready to rumble. Yeah.
Yes. The Blockchain Brothers are in the house, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Sending out tons of love to you all. Hope you're enjoying your summer and not getting too hot. Speaking of hot, one of the hottest topics in the game at the moment is really understanding CeFi versus DeFi. And probably the most commonly quoted phrase is, not your keys, not your coins. Well, there's two sides to that, right? Either you can see the glass half full, which is I totally own my assets, or you can see it as a glass half empty, as in I can lose all my assets like this. So you can see in this slide, everyone, that there are different topics going for different providers, attacking CeFi, attacking DeFi. But let's break this down into more depth because a lot of people only stay on the surface level. So we'll go a little bit deeper today. So let's have a look here. So when we're comparing CeFi and DeFi, one of the first categories, if you look at the column on your left, is custody and ownership, right? Obviously, DeFi with Web3 wallets, you fully own your keys and your assets. So that's one of the strengths and superpowers. Again, DeFi is the winner, right? Because if we've seen with Celsius, we've seen with Voyager, all these issues that scare a lot of people now because of the headlines. Now, if we go into wallet hacks, well, they're not necessarily directly hacks onto Web3 blockchains, but they're phishing, spoofing attacks. People tend to lose their private keys, which when you think about all the three other columns, right, you can group them into one big risk category, which is private keys and recovery phrases management, right? So a lot of things that other people out there are talking about how DeFi Web3 wallets are so awesome and how CeFi sucks are forgetting to communicate some critical points. And we have some amazing stories to share with you to really visualize and paint the picture for you. Number one, what if you're walking out of your house, out of your office, you get hit by a car, get hit by a bicycle, you just trip and fall, hit your head, and all of a sudden, you just lose track of where these private keys were? What if you actually die? And I have a very sad story for you all. One of our community members in the past who was hiking in the mountains actually passed, had an accident, fell down and passed. But luckily enough, because his wife knew that he was using the SwissBorg Wealth app, because obviously she could prove that she was the wife, death certificate, etc., all the funds were recovered. Once again, it's very important to understand risks from both sides. The next one, we have theft risk. We saw that with some influencers, including one of the big influencers in France where someone came with a gun and was asking for his ledger and his private keys. So again, there's risk of theft. And of course, risk of loss, which is probably the biggest mistake of all, right? How many times have we lost our keys before? How many times have we lost our wallet? And it's 10 times worse because if you think of private keys as a keys to your house, if you lose the keys of your house, then you can just go to the serrurier or a key manufacturer and get the double, the spare keys. But this is worse, guys, because if you lose your keys, this is like losing access to your house, even if you own it. If you are the owner of a house and you lose your front door keys and can't get in, someone else has access to your house. So actually the keys analogy is softer than what it is with Web3 wallets. So these are really big topics to always think of and make sure that we really understand both sides, the pros and the cons. And then phishing spoofing attack, as some of you may know, this can happen through an anonymous scammer. One of my friends was scammed half a BTC. Someone actually impersonated me on Instagram and was super intelligent in the dialogue. He managed to look at our background and friendship in the past and very sadly managed to spoof one of my friends and he lost a lot of money. Phishing attacks is simply when you have a new website. Sometimes they may have a new MyEther wallet or a MetaMask, but the website URL is MetaMasks with an S. Something you may not see. You click on that, you enter your password, and boom, all your funds are lost. So even though Web3 DeFi doesn't get hacked, there are many other exploits and attacks that can happen, ending up losing every single asset that we have. And then licensed and regulated, we know that DeFi right now is trying to be regulated, right? Because they're realizing that you have to be somehow regulated, and we'll explain why. So how does SwissBorg position ourselves with regards to taking the best of both CeFi and DeFi worlds for you so that you have the best user experience and that you feel entirely safe and secure when you're sleeping at night with your assets? Number one, custody ownership. Although we are CeFi and we would like to see ourselves as Web 2.5 as the bridge between the two, the on-chain and the off-chain worlds, as my beautiful brother always says, well, SwissBorg does not hold custody of your funds. Your funds are on Fireblocks. And as you can see here, we are not allowed to use user funds for our own benefits, and that is in the terms and conditions in the actual application. So even though we are more CeFi, we have the advantages of DeFi here. Bankruptcy protection. In the very unlikely event of bankruptcy, as you all know, we're doing well financially. We have a very Swiss conservative CFO, so we're always planning for 2 years ahead. Will your funds still remain fully redeemable if SwissBorg was not just went bankrupt or we wanted to run away with the funds or things like that? These are things where you can guarantee protection for yourself. And what's even better, guys, here is that your user funds continue to be segregated because it is one of the liabilities and one of the terms that our license authorities tell us and enforce these rules so that we cannot use them for any type of personal company needs. So that's a key point. Wallet hacks, SwissBorg uses MPC technology. MPC technology is better than private keys because it's like having private keys that are detached into some sort of multi-sig format where there's never a single point of failure. So SwissBorg security is better than private keys. Yeah, sounds crazy, but it's true. Accident, theft, loss, all you need is a simple KYC and you're back into your account. As a matter of fact, there were some people in the past going down to phishing and spoofing attacks where obviously mobile app security is way superior to desktop because there are less exploits. And on top of that, you do not allow cookies for you to actually get phished. So already being mobile, we're safer than using a desktop version of a Web3 wallet. But on top of that, our amazing support team, thanks to wallets being blacklisted in the past, people who tried to spoof other people, we managed to prevent and tell them on time that this is a blacklisted address. Be careful where you're sending your funds. So again, SwissBorg is the best solution here. And then the last, license regulated, like why is that important to you guys? A lot of people think, oh, I have to do KYC. Oh, this is license regulated. It's not really the best platform for me. But you got to understand, like being licensed and regulated on top of having access to all our documentation, right? And being public figures and stuff like that. The authorities will actually enforce rules and make sure that they're enforced at all times, once again, in your benefits to protect you, the community member, the user, and all of us out here. So this is hopefully a better idea for those to really understand that SwissBorg is different from many centralized platforms where they do own custody. They have actually their own custodian. Those risks are very different from SwissBorg. And it's important that altogether we detach ourselves and you out there help us communicate this with the community. It's critical that you share this on and on and on until really this goes out and becomes viral. And then people realize, okay, CeFi players are not necessarily our enemies. DeFi players are not necessarily our enemies, but we can use the best of both worlds, as we always try to do at SwissBorg. And just to give some more facts based on this table, in terms of how things are happening, let's have a look at some of these sources. We won't look at them all, but Web3 wallets have lost more funds than all CeFi wallets and companies combined due to private miskey management itself. So the loss of private keys, the loss of a password, of a recovery phrase is the most common way where we lose money, more than the bankruptcies, more than, some platforms like gating essentially the user's funds. So that's one thing that's really important to understand. Roughly 4 million BTC has been lost up to present, which is equivalent of $80 billion at an average price of one BTC at $20,000. So that gives you an idea. And then obviously we also have the DeFi protocols themselves have lost more money than CeFi platforms since the inception of DeFi in 2019. So that's really important to understand. Once again, more DeFi money was lost than CeFi, including Celsius, Voyager, etc., etc. So you can see here some of the examples. The biggest CeFi hack of all time was Mt. Gox, and then it was CoinCheck. But we also have in DeFi from 2019 to 2022 alone, we've had 325 million Wormhole, 611 million with Poly Network, 540 million with Ronin Bridge, Axie Infinity, and more and more and more. So there you go. Some sources just to prove this point, and hopefully all of you guys can understand, and don't forget to spread the love.
Many thanks, Alex, for this great analysis about DeFi and CeFi and the best of the both worlds, which is always SwissBorg. Talking about this, the big mess happened in the last month of May, and everyone's starting to get out of CeFi, as you guys understood. Does this actually hurt us or not? It did. But what you'll see is that on the long run, this makes us just stronger. It's always like the moment you get those hits in your face and you start, maybe almost falling on the ground, but you stand up and you get strong and you live through these moments that gives you a great mindset of how to be the champion, right? It's not being champion for one day, it's how to be a champion for a lifetime. And whatever you think, whatever you do, this is the right mindset to have. And I think so these data shows well, right? We've lost since end of May, since the debacle of the CeFi falling down, 50% actually of essentially Ether has left the platform. But since month of June, we have a net flow that's going well, July as well, which is good. We have only 10% of users that actually redeemed half of their yield from the 43,000 users we have. Today, we don't have so many whales left. There was few that left, and we don't have so bigger. The great thing is that we have a very big amount of people that have a fair amount, which is the healthiest way for business, by the way. Everyone always looks at size. What we have to look is always at quality, right? So today we only have 50 essentially whales that have over 100 Ether. In the last 2 months, we have actually 410 Ether that has been earned, which is great. And when you look in terms of transactions, there's been 9K redemptions, but actually there's been 20,000 subscriptions. So it means net we had outflows because essentially bigger people left the platform. And what you see here, this concurs of what I'm saying, the retention rates of the different categories of people. So let's starting over 1,000, so starting at Ether and more, we have a retention rate of 75%, which is really good. From this category was not as good, only 30%. That because essentially we don't have from 5,000 to 10K, we don't have so much people. Then we have a lot of people here that over 10 Ether essentially. The rotation is just perfect. People just sticked into it. Probably you guys listening, which is great. From 50K to 100K, the retention rate, not too well either. So the bigger people. And then this is tumbling pretty much down, unfortunately. Because, people flew out and people got afraid and people got in their ledgers. A lot of those people today are not yielding and not gaining anything, where you guys, smartly enough, are doing so. On another positive note, we're about to list a new token very, very soon. And I won't say which one it is, but it's a good one that seems similar to what soon is. So that's only what I can say. Looking forward to have this Thursday. Another chart of the week, which is interesting. It shows what we got about sponsorship or marketing in general. I think some marketing is always better than sponsorship. But we see that people are, thanks to the tram, thanks to you guys passing the world, we're seeing more and more unique views coming from Zurich and the Swiss German market, which is really, really important for us because we've done very well in Geneva, in Canton Vaud, Châtel, Fribourg, Bern, but we're not as, and Fribourg as well, sorry, but we're not as good in the other Swiss German states, cantons, sorry. And the idea here is to really push there, to put the SwissBorg and make sure that we grow there. And we're looking that with our campaigns that we're doing, things are growing as we thought would grow. So the efforts are well done. And if you're watching this video at a Swiss German canton, please help us out. Weekly CHSB data, things are going quite well on average. 378 new people in the premium, which is always good. A little bit less than 2 million for the protect and choose, and we have 136,000 people that have CHSB holder in the app, which is great. Which brings us to the community index. Cast your vote. What is it going to be? Is it going to be high? Is it going to be low? Or is it going to be average? Average 5.5. Nevertheless, what I like is the activity in the app has grown significantly, which for me is one of the most important things. Obviously, growing the CHSB holders and invitations as well is always very important. The CHSB is obviously very important. But the app activity, something is good. And I think so this recent rally has helped a lot. And that people, even if they're enjoying the beaches, they're as well enjoying looking at their app and potentially trading and getting in and doing DC as we guys love. Tomorrow night is crypto night.
What actually is the metaverse?
Will Meta make everything better?
Do I have to wear the goggles?
Everybody should study and get into the Web3 and the metaverse market. They can build it inside. So we can have a kindergarten there, we can have elementary school. So the possibility is with infinities. It is a revolution.
Guys, I hope you liked all these beautiful stars. Very glad to have Alex here. As you guys understand, CeFi, the best combination in the world, is never left or right. It's never black or white. It's all about finding the nuances of those two different colors, of the two different directions, and combining them together, the urge to merge the off-chain world and the on-chain world. And I think so this is something that we've really understood for a long time, is how you get the best of those two worlds. And we're very glad to be offering this to you guys. Obviously, security has always been the pinnacle of SwissBorg, and we will continue doing so and offering more and more exciting products around this great ecosystem. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. As always, be healthy, be wealthy, and love our CHSB. Take care, guys. Bye.
Through SwissBorg, all assets will have a fiat gateway. And here is the thing.
Premium features gives you zero fee trading.
It's an amazing fiat gateway.
For some, love is a strong feeling. What if you could send it from point A to point B? Zero borders, zero time, zero fees. For us, love is sending crypto. Just send it. Now with SmartSend. Engineered in Switzerland by SwissBorg.